So I can see what's going on.
I think we're on, my friend.
Are we? Oh, crikey, there's me mumbling along.
Yeah, the internet connection just went down literally 2 seconds before we started transmitting,
Excellent.
which is typical.
Excellent.
Right, hello everybody. This is volume 3 of me cocking about, basically. This is lockdown therapy, volume 3, totally off the hoof. Yeah, 2 a.m., 2:07 a.m. in the UK.
Well, it's good for
Insomnia.
American audiences, you know.
Yeah, that's the main target audience, I suppose. So,
Yeah,
I would just like to welcome ProblemBeing. I've spoken to ProblemBeing a couple of times before through the Spacebook channel with our friend Mr. Hadley, Good Egg.
Dan
so
Hadley.
I know Dan Hadley.
Geek
as I said to a guy yesterday, Dan gave me the opportunity of just talking bollocks for a while, so I'm eternally grateful for him for that. So, ProblemBeing, everybody. Hello, Lee. How are you doing?
Yes, I'm up. I'm awake. I've got a cup of tea. I've run out of milk, so it's black.
Oh dear. Black tea at this time.
Yes, I know, it's terrible.
So, how are you finding the lockdown? How's it affecting you?
To be honest with you, I'm kind of used to it. For a number of years, coming onto a decade, I was caring for my grandmother, and it was pretty much similar sort of situation, really.
Okay, was that like full-time caring?
Yeah, although I had to travel, I didn't live with her because her house was in like no fit state. I mean, it was just awful, and I was left to my own devices,
right?
Which was tricky because, you know, things of that serious nature, you do need help, and it took years and years, and all I ended up getting was being shafted by her local council.
Right.
So I was not in a very good state of mind at that time. It was probably the worst time of my life.
And how long ago was that?
Well, she passed away in 2018. So,
right, okay.
So it's not that long
ago. I'd say by the sounds of it, you went to a dark place.
Yes, very, very dark. Not something I'd wish on anybody, frankly. But I've absolute 100% empathy and sympathy for those who are going through that, especially around this time of year. So, you know, I know there will be people who might be listening who are going through that experience, and, you know, I would say to them, reach out, you know, don't suffer it alone.
Yeah, but between you and I was going to do a live stream on Christmas Day just for people who are alone at Christmas, because Christmas, I know, can be a pretty fucking traumatic time for people.
It is, and I think that can't be understated. I think that there's a large swell of people who really kind of get left by the wayside, and that's nothing to be ashamed about. But I seriously urge you to keep in touch with people on that day if you're not with them physically.
Because I don't know about you, but the thing about mental health, because I did have an episode end of last year, and there's kind of been brief flashes of it coming back during lockdown. Because
I know what you mean.
You can kind of tell. You can see the signs, can't you? And the thing about mental health is you just feel a selfish bastard for thinking about yourself. It's like,
well, no other bugger's going to do it for you, are they?
Yeah, but you just feel like when you're with me last year, it got so bad for me. A good day was when I didn't consider driving my van into a brick wall at high speed. So if I had a day where I wasn't thinking that, for me, that was a good day.
Good day. Yeah, I hear you.
But there were days where I would think I'd be thinking 3-4 times a day. And then if you try talking to somebody about it who's probably never had a kind of like a mental issue, a mental trauma, as it were, you just feel that one, they can't quite grasp it.
You feel a burden, don't you?
You feel a burden. You feel selfish, and it's like a kind of a spiraling circle going down. It's the most weird. Your brain, your sense of reasoning just goes out the fucking window.
Yeah, and it all goes out the bloody window. And I don't think, unless you've gone through it, how the depths of sort of mental depravity and angst and overwhelming bleakness and darkness and all the rest of it come crashing down around your ears to such a degree you can't get out of it. You know, it's so all consuming.
Yeah.
And it's easy, I think, for people who don't understand it to simply go, well, you know, you'll be okay, and you know, you're doing well, or you know, this
thing is, you want to be okay, but you just you try and pick yourself up, but the brain, your brain chemicals, your brain imbalance won't allow it, and it's very it's just it's so.
I tend to see it as something more than, you know, I don't subscribe to the chemical imbalance. I don't think that's ever been proven scientifically at all. I think that's one of those sort of irritable bowel syndrome type labels.
Right,
you know,
okay.
it's something that gets labeled on there, and it basically means we don't know what it is.
Right.
I tend to see it as something that's more intrinsic to human, not spirit, but like well, something like that, I guess. Something more ephemeral, something more something very highly attuned.
Okay.
I think it's a frequency issue more than anything. I think it's
Right.
a dissonant frequency your brain goes into.
So you feel slightly out of phase, to kind of quote sci-fi, because I know you're kind of into that, because I am as well. So
yeah.
You know something's wrong. I see with me. I wasn't even aware that I was. I basically I was just functioning depressive, and I wasn't even aware. The boss at work just pulled me in one day, just because I recognise the signs of somebody who's depressed. Well, how do you mean? How do you mean? And he just says, well, you look like a man who's constantly on the edge, trying to juggle 15 balls, and you're not quite managing it. And one wrong move could just send you over the fucking edge. And I didn't even. You just feel, until you recognise it, you just feel like it's normal.
Well, it's very astute of your boss to.
Yeah,
pick up on that. That's a good thing. I mean, I would wish a boss like that for everybody. You know, someone who can actually.
The ironic thing is that the boss, nobody likes him. He's a bit of a. Well, he is. Well, I kind of developed a
healthy respect.
Yeah, for certain things. But on other things, because basically he lost me my job, because I was made redundant in August. The company used furlough as a opportunity to get rid of everybody on the cheap. Because effectively, obviously, when you're made redundant, you're paid. They buy you out the contract, basically, don't they? So
yeah.
So, because I'd been there 18 years, the furlough money was the 12 weeks severance. So basically, they paid the initial period of me going, and then obviously I got the 3 months of furlough pay. So they just played the numbers to downsize, which
that's callous. That's callous.
Yeah. ultimately, they'll be doing me a favour, because if anything, we've got one viewer, by the way. Hello, viewer. If anything, I think it was about 6 to 8 weeks after lockdown started, there was a period where we all thought we had to go back to work.
Yeah.
Do you remember that, when the Prime Minister says, "Oh, back to work, blah, blah, blah." But nobody had to go back to work, really.
Yeah.
I think they changed it from working at home if you could, etc. And I drove to where I worked. It was a 50-mile round trip. Not much traffic. And I just thought, how the fuck have I done this for 18 years? It's just 2 hours of your life per day you do not get back. It's like, how the fuck have I done this? So ultimately, they're doing me a favour, but it's just trying to get my shit sorted out.
That's the thing, isn't it? I mean, once you get shaken like that, you got
the routines on the
stand on your own again.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. It's not easy. It's not easy. So I mean, there are ways. Learning coping. I mean, for me, my escape came about through tragedy. That's the harsh, horrible realities that my grandmother that I was caring for nearly a decade.
I take it you were very, very close.
Very close. She raised me. She was like my mother. So,
oh, right. Okay. Okay. I'm sorry.
All the more horrific for me. And when she passed away, my fight continued. Because they were going to take away the house. They were going to take all the things away, and I had to fight them and all of this stuff, which I won.
Was there any other? Did she have any children?
She did, but she copied the will that her father had, which was absolutely watertight, and made sure that I got everything.
All right, that's right. Okay,
so there was no way.
Normally you find the relatives who have never been around, they just come out the fucking woodwork.
No, they knew. I mean, look. I could easily have proved it in court that they didn't lift a finger to help me, to help her. So there was no way they were going to challenge to that.
I have a similar.
And they knew from years ago, when she was fully compos mentis as well, that they were getting nothing. Because my father basically dumped me on her when I was a kid, so he knew straight away there was no point.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I had so many things to tie up, and I had to get out of London. My mental health was on the verge of complete collapse. And I found a house out in Somerset, and
because you said you were from Somerset on one of the streams the other week.
Well, not originally, but
down there now.
And it's been a blessing for me, because it has given me space. And I was living in this horrible flat that was effectively a basement flat, right? So it was.
Did it feel
facing
like a
the
prison?
back? Yeah, it was literally. I mean, it was like living in a corridor, a small, tiny corridor. It was very long, so it wasn't even a square shape. It was a long.
Oh God.
Yeah, so I mean,
that would be fucking with the senses straight away.
Absolutely, and my only big window in my living room, such as it was facing a giant fence, so I couldn't see out the other side. It's a concrete fence.
Jesus.
And so there's barely any natural light whatsoever. And I was absolutely in despair. It was horrible. I started becoming like a recluse. My friends that kind of dissipated. Either they moved away or ceased communication, because I wasn't able to go out and I wasn't able to do anything. And I was caring for my grandmother, and that's a burden on them. Either they don't want to know, or you don't want to burden them with it. So it's kind of one or the other. And and I started becoming a terrible hoarder. Crazy shit that you cannot really control. You do need help, really badly. So I mean, for lockdown, this is a walk in the park in comparison, quite honestly.
It sounds like you've had Yeah, it sounds for you like this would be a holiday camp.
I wouldn't say it's a holiday camp. I mean, it just means I'm used to it. You know, I mean,
Yeah,
I've dealt with worse.
yeah. It sounds like you've been through the mill a little.
Yeah, but at least I have a house that is what's a new build.
Oh, brilliant!
It's spacey. I've got lots of light. I don't
Lights
fucking
is
know
very
anybody
important.
out here, but then
Really?
really didn't know anybody
Do you have any neighbours?
left in London. I do. They sent me a Christmas card, which was very nice. The very sweet couple. But years of sort of isolation, you kind of just get used to it. And I mean, I did have a friend I had, and we were going to go into business together and stuff, and a couple of business opportunities.
What was the business opportunity?
One was a restaurant. The other was a media business. But
okay.
Yeah, both of those things fell through, and that nearly tippled me back to square one.
Right. Because
But
I had a quick look at your channel. Your musical.
yeah, that was my old band. Yeah, I just kept the name. Don't know why. Couldn't bother to change. Just got my old band stuff on there.
Are you still in? Do you still do the music, or
I don't have a band anymore.
just do stuff yourself?
That folded back in, oh crikey.
Yeah, it did look a long while ago.
Oh, quite a while ago, yeah, a number of years ago. But I still make music. Not so much anymore. I mean, I do like my own electronic stuff and whatnot.
What electronic? What style of electronic?
Well, various different styles. Experimental, ambient, techno, industrial,
dude,
all sorts.
Between you and I used to do all the music over 15 years ago when I was living in Leeds. I moved to my parents when I'd split up with the ex, and all my studio, synthesizers and stuff like that. Obviously, it was all boxed. I put it. It's basically still up in the loft. It's quite a big studio.
Nice.
And I've not done anything musical.
You have to listen. I'll tell you what.
I downloaded Ableton the other about a month or so ago, and I've been dabbling. So
keep doing it. I'll tell you. Look, one thing I did during lockdown, which I think was the best idea I had, really, was to learn a new skill. I mean, I used to do a lot of Photoshop stuff. But it became a subscription service. I couldn't afford it. It's like a ridiculous amount of money.
I know.
And I don't like that. I like to be able to own a license outright so I can use it when I want. So that, I mean, there are alternatives, but
there are
not as good. But although there is another one that I've heard that is almost indistinguishable, so I need to check that out. But I decided I was going to learn to do 3D stuff, right? So I decided to do that. I looked up what there was available, and saw that Blender was free.
I downloaded Blender. I also downloaded Blender.
Excellent. It's a fucking nightmare.
I looked at it. I downloaded some of the meshes for the USS Enterprise.
Right.
And I subscribed to one of the, I think it was 3D sci-fi renders on Facebook.
Okay.
Which is all kind of amateur stuff. And some of these amateurs, it's fucking outstanding.
I do look at like Blender Exchange or whatever it's called and things. I mean, there are some great. I found the bronze Daleks. This guy made them in like a copper shader.
Right.
And I thought, ooh, I'm going to use that. I'm going to use it. But
are you still using it then? Are you still using? Are you?
I am. I'm currently in the process of making my own Doctor Who titles.
Okay.
Because that seems to be a common thing on YouTube, so I thought I'd do my own. I'll do the music as well, the theme tune. I premiered. Well, I didn't premiere it. I kind of shared a link to my work in progress to Startrek and Noel from the TARDIS Zone. They've seen where I'm at with it. So I've made a new logo and my own vortex, and I didn't make my own TARDIS because there's so many fucking TARDISes you can download and use anyway. There's just no point.
The vortex stuff on Doctor Who is pretty good.
Well, I found that, the wonders of YouTube, you find so many tutorials, and then you take what you learn in the tutorials and then you experiment with other things that you've learned, and then you can sort of change it so it's not exactly like it is in the tutorials.
I'll agree with that. I've learned more from YouTube tutorials about Ableton in this past 6 weeks than I learned in the 5 years I had the studio going.
That's it, and
we didn't have any of all this YouTube stuff even 15 years ago.
No, it's been an absolute blessing. I barely watch TV anymore. I watch The Expanse. I watch what else do I watch? I watch The Expanse.
Have you started watching Banshee yet? I finished that tonight.
I haven't. No. I promise I would.
I nearly cried. Banshee, everybody's amazing.
It's good. I heard it's good. It's difficult. Like, I had this mental block with Breaking Bad, and it's until I started to watch it did that completely disappear, and I ended up absolutely loving that. So, because it's some sort of subject matter that doesn't normally filter into my worldview. So I kind of dismiss it out of hand. It was the same with Game of Thrones. I wasn't interested in that because I'm not going to watch some dappy fantasy thing with dragons.
I don't like dragons either.
But I watched it, and until it turned shit a lot. I absolutely loved it.
I tried watching I tried getting into it. I just the opening titles. I just thought, oh god. I love the theme tune. I love that.
I love the titles, actually. I think that's
really. I thought the kind of oldie worldy, like ripping off Britain and Europe with funny names. I thought.
Well, I mean, it is. I
thought, all right, we'll go with it. And then first scene, I think Sean Bean was on it, and then I think I got to the first commercial break, and I just thought, nah,
really,
no. It's just I couldn't get past the dragons. I just no. Just not
I ended up loving it. I became obsessed with it, and then it really started to go downhill towards the end. Series. God, I can't remember which.
Did you get totally let down by the last series?
Oh God, it was awful. I mean, there were some good moments, but it really, really shat the bed in the big time, and I was just mortified. And I was building because I had a map of Westeros as a puzzle, and I was building up the puzzle and stuff. And then I watched that series, the last series, and I just took the puzzle. I hadn't even got anywhere near finishing it, but I thought, I'm not going to even bother. I didn't even want to look at it, so I just totally dismantled it and put it back in the box.
Oh dear.
That'll be going off to a charity shop. That's it.
You are a big. We'll get on. You're a big Doctor Who fan, are you not? I
am. Well, I was.
That's his favourite program.
I'm a classic Doctor Who fan. For me, I could happily, at an instant, just cut off New Who completely, assign it to the fucking dustbin of history if I have to, the way it's going on, because nothing can touch my classic Doctor Who.
So, with Doctor Who, who's your Doctor? Where did you come in at?
Well, I came in at Tom Baker.
Same here.
4 years old.
Yeah, same
here. For me, my story that I don't know if it's my first, but it's certainly the one that stuck in my memory from the age of 4, and that was 1979's Destiny of the Daleks. I think it was Destiny of the Daleks. The one with Romana in the pink outfit, similar to
that's 41 years ago. Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So that was I remember being transfixed. There was a scene between the Doctor and Davros.
Yeah.
And I remembered it was in an orange room. I was so clear on it. I rewatched it years and years and years later when when I decided to re-engage with my love of Doctor Who, because I hadn't seen it since I left school back in 91. So I mean, it would have been 89 would have been. And obviously the TV movie, which was so and it's amazing how much it sort of burned into my memory. Like, it was, when I rewatched it, it was exactly as I remembered it, and that was it. And I remember being absolutely terrified of the Doctor.
Not the cheap sets.
Not the cheap set. That was normal for the back. Yeah. But it was not Davros that scared me. It was the Doctor that scared me, because he had that grin and that flop of hair and those bulging eyes.
Yeah. He had that look in his eyes all the time.
But Romana made me feel that because she was with him, he was safe.
Right.
And even though he scared me more than Davros did, I felt he was on my side. So I thought, well, and then from then on, I was obsessed with it. And I remember when I was a little kid, I used to carry around, I don't know if you remember them, but there was they released a sweet tin of the TARDIS with the Doctor in the doorway of the TARDIS. Do you remember those?
I will take your word for that.
They were great. So it's like a little TARDIS tin box.
Yeah.
And I used to carry that around with me everywhere. And when he regenerated, there was another one with Peter Davison in the doorway as well. So I had one of those. But I remember being completely... I still think I have PTSD from when Tom Baker regenerated. I kept watching it, expecting him to come back, and this guy would go away.
As I said, I came in... I think I can kind of remember John Pertwee, but I was probably far too young. So I can't really nail it down.
I met John Pertwee backstage in his dressing room with the rest of my school Doctor Who fan club, because we had the best Doctor Who fan club in a school ever, right?
Yeah.
We had visits from cast, crew, writers, producers, the lot. We had them come and visit us at our school. We had Nicholas Courtney come visit us. We had who else did we have? We had J&T came to visit us. We had Michael Wisher, who played Davros in Genesis. He came to visit us.
I would say the
Louise Jameson.
The old Davros from back in the day was far scarier.
Yeah, I agree.
Than the new one. The new one, the makeup looks fantastic.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, it's great. But I don't like the metal claw hand he's got. I like the skin, because I think that's more creepy.
I just think back in the day, the one there was just fucking bad.
Yeah, I love Terry Malloy's Davros, but for me, my favourite is still Michael Wisher.
We had a geography teacher when I was at school who looked like Davros, and his nickname was Davros.
That's funny. Oh, I'll tell you what, we had a physics teacher. We had a physics teacher who looked exactly like Mr. Spock.
He was called Mr. I think it was Mr. Dutton. God rest his soul. He'd be dead now. Geography teacher. Yeah, it looks like he was small as well.
Really?
So he was. He looked like Davros.
But I'm telling you, my physics teacher looked exactly like Mr. Spock. Exactly like Mr. Spock.
Well,
he looked like Leonard Nimoy. Yeah. He even had the haircut. I swear to God. And he was really funny. He had a real dry sense of humour. And in my year before, when we were doing mock exams, I actually was in his class, and he came, because I dropped physics as a subject. I shouldn't have done it.
Same here. I dropped it, and I was good at it.
That's the thing. I had no idea, and he came up to me and he said, "Last but not least, Mr." My name, and he dropped my results on the desk in front of me. He said, and I had like the top marks in the year. And he said he couldn't understand it because I didn't do any homework, right? And I was half like daydreaming.
Same here, mate. I did it, yeah.
I still got like 70. I think it was like 78%. I had no idea, and I wish to God I'd done, because I went to my school and I said, "Well, can I change my mind? I want to do physics. And they said, no, you've chosen now. So that's it.
I think,
unbelievable, isn't it?
I think a lot of people of our age were badly advised when it came to careers.
Oh God, yeah.
I was like you. I was really good at physics, which was surprising considering I skived off half the lessons.
Yeah. And I was shit at maths. This is the weird thing. I was in the lowest maths class, and in the last year they put me in the top maths class, even though I couldn't, I couldn't concentrate, and I was no good at it. I had to take my shoes and socks because I'm dyscalculic, and of course, because I had dyslexia and dyscalculia, it wasn't recognised back then. So there was no helping me really, and no acknowledgement of there being that kind of problem. But somehow, even without the maths, I was excellent at physics. I don't know if it was like chance or
maybe just a natural talent. Some things you're just naturally good at.
I've taken, thanks again to YouTube, I've taken another interest again in physics. But because I think it's true of my generation, of our generation. I think it's very true that we are sort of more critically, our critical faculties are absolutely ramped up 100%. We're from a generation that had to fight for everything because we were squeezed out by the boom. Oh, well, I don't class myself as a boomer, but because I'm Gen X, so
Yeah, I'm same as you, mate.
So I think Gen X was squeezed out by the boomers and the millennials, right in the middle of that lot.
Yeah. We're the generation that missed out on everything.
The forgotten generation, so we are called, and rightly so, because I think we literally were the drawbridge being pulled up in front of us by the boomers. You had all the jobs, they had all the free everything, free education.
Fuckers, we're not bitter.
Yeah, they got their council flats. Given to
they got everything, and they're still ungrateful.
Yeah, the bastards. Yeah, but we had to fight for everything, and there were less of us. So basically, I think our attitude was, well, fuck you, I'm going to fight and fight and fight. So, and we were very hypercritical of everything because, we were suspicious of everything and motives and all the rest of it. And I think that, if you look at the 90s particularly, I think, there was a massive growth in conspiracy theories and all the rest of that kind of stuff because we were thinking, well, holy crap, things aren't as we're told because we kept uncovering people being duplicitous bastards. And
did you go out raving?
Oh fuck yeah!
There you go. I
was a massive raver. Oh my god, yeah.
I had a Miss. Where's Mrs. Brown? There isn't a Mrs. Brown, unfortunately. My friend.
Oh, it's the memery factory. There is trouble.
Much to my annoyance, there's no Mrs. Brown. I nearly had a Mrs. Brown, but I fucked that up. So yeah, such is life.
No Mrs. Brown's boys then.
Oh God, I can't stand that program. Raving. I said to a guy yesterday, Trev, who's really into Doctor Who, that a lot of these younger people who basically they just want to destroy everything or cancel everything.
They are probably the most closeted, most what's the word? Well, I think they're just so utterly.
They just expect everything. Yeah, they've
got nothing to rage against, so they have to invent things to rage.
They've got everything on a fucking. They have got everything on a fucking plate for them, and they just want to destroy stuff. And when I was their age,
if you don't understand something, you tend to want to just destroy it.
When I don't know about you, when I was their age, when we were young, we were fucking assholes. It wasn't, you're young, you know it all.
Well, it's like Oscar Wilde said, the young know everything, the middle-aged suspect everything, and the elderly believe everything.
Youth is wasted on the what is it?
Youth is wasted on the young. Yeah. So true. So true.
When I was their age, I don't know about you. Well, as I said to Trev yesterday, all we wanted to do is take drugs, go out, party, have a good time.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, when I discovered ecstasy, my God, I was in love with the universe. So it's like, oh my God.
Yeah, I was a proper fucking acid head. I always said, I'm not taking E, I'm not doing it, I'm not doing it. And then, ironically, it was at a works party in Leeds, and not at a rave. Somebody said, basically everybody who I worked with took E.
Everyone did back in the 90s.
And then they go, no, this night out, they were all on it. I said, go on, Mr. Brown, go on, do it. So fucking peer pressure.
Outrage.
Yeah.
But it was it was a great time. It was.
You always remember your first E.
Oh my God, yeah. Oh my God, I had to scrape me off the ceiling. Oh my God!
Listen, people. Winners don't do drugs. We're not we're not endorsing taking drugs at all. Winners do not take.
But seriously,
drugs.
Do.
They'll get struck off. No.
Disavow me.
It's the road to ruin, peeps.
It certainly didn't help.
I was well into the raving. It was all nighters in Birmingham at the Q Club. Fucking brilliant. Yeah,
well, I was out in the alternative scene and the gay scene, and because they had the best drugs, that's just the case.
This gay club in Birmingham, Subway City.
Oh, Subway, yeah. There was one in Soho. Yeah, that's where I took my first pill.
They did the best poppers ever.
Right, yeah, crikey.
Because normally you'd get them in the tiny little bottle.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know where they got these poppers from. They were in like big fuck off and die catering size bottles. And they were amazing. Fucking hell. Yeah. That's going back at least 25 years.
Well, for me, my first pill was I think it was a British Bulldog or a Pit Bull or something. And then it was like the one that really came in and totally fucked everyone up was the Mitsubishis and the White Doves. It was just like, oh God.
Again, I will say, peeps, winners.
We're talking about
winners don't do drugs.
It
just. I don't know about you, Lee. It just seems like a lifetime ago now.
It does. It really does.
It's
like another dimension, and it's night and day compared to today. I mean, no one knows like how much fun it was back then, and everyone seems to be so. I mean, when I went out clubbing, I think towards the end of my clubbing life, really. Yeah. I mean, my mum still goes out raving, by the way. But yeah, she loves her hard house and all the trance and all that stuff. But I went to some clubs in London. 20.
I went to Heaven
like that. It was so depressing because everyone was there with their hooch, standing against the wall, looking depressed. It was like, oh my God.
You remember 2020 Mad Dog?
2020 what?
2020 Mad Dog. It was like this fortified wine shit. Do you remember it?
No. Oh, 2020.
Yeah, 2020. Yeah, it was like
that stuff is lethal.
It was like
used to drink that back in the 90s. Yeah, like
all coloured shit.
Yeah, really like syrupy, like
that was back in my student days. Yeah, kind of a bottle of 2020, and it was all funny. What was it? Was it fortified wine? I don't know what it was, but
fortified stomach acid, I guess. I don't know.
There was either that or was it fucking diamond? Was it Diamond White?
Diamond White. God, White Lightning.
Yeah.
Ace, is it? Oh God,
Thunderbird.
Oh, what was that? What was that beer? Tennant's Extra.
Oh, the syrup.
Yeah. Oh my God, it was like vicious.
Was it like? It was like 10%, wasn't it?
Something crazy.
You had to. You didn't drink it. You got a spoon and ate it. It was all the proper.
Yeah, that's what you did if you want to get drunk quick before you hit the nightclub. Yeah.
Fucking hell. Yeah, the Tennant's Super, not good.
Tennant Super, that's what I meant, not Tennant 6.
Yeah,
that was it. Fucking the proper crusty stuff. No,
not good.
But you did it just to get absolutely hammered before you got out the door.
Yeah, not good. Not good.
No.
To be fair, I've never really been a big drinker because personally I think drink is a very, very it's the road to ruin.
I kind of think I was lucky that I kind of went down the road of doing ecstasy rather than
great. I said
because I think it was better for you, to be honest. And I'm not advocating anything. That's my point of view.
You couldn't do it every. You couldn't do it every night.
Well, the funny thing is now they're talking, in the medical spheres, they're talking about treating depressive patients with ecstasy and magic mushrooms and things. So, hey, I think that's something that can be looked at. I mean, the bad thing with ecstasy, though, was at the time, and probably still so now, was the calm down was not great. It did make you very introspective and feel like shit.
Tuesdays, mate. Tuesdays.
Oh god, yeah, that's when it hit worst. Absolutely.
Tuesdays.
Right. Yeah.
Tuesdays.
Yeah.
The chat is asking that, especially the Memory Factory. Do you think the Memory Factory is representative of the current problems in society? Well, there's many fucking problems in society, my friend, so please list them. Bad Wolf 66 says, we've had this before, is Mr. Brown related to Mrs. Brown's boys?
Just say yes.
No. Technically, I am a Mrs. Brown's boy. There were 3 of us.
That's true.
So technically, yes, but not that Mrs. Brown. I think I must have watched about 2 minutes of that program. I couldn't fucking stand it.
It was amusing the first time around, but it's up and down the same thing. I'm going to sneeze. Hold on.
And yes, Gordon Brown was a person. I personally think Gordon Brown could have been the greatest prime minister ever. No,
Mr. Smith would have been a good prime minister.
He would have been. Yeah, John Smith would have been. John Smith would have been good.
Gordon Brown
for his time,
not a good prime minister. He was not even a good.
No, I think the trouble is with Gordon Brown. He had his moments, but he blew it.
Well, he came out with that fucking New World Order shit,
and he went
again. It's like one of those. It's like, oh right, got your game. I mean, like, look,
he had his moments. Well, maybe so. I personally feel he had his moment, but
no, I think
he fucked it up. He fucked it up. He bottled it.
For me, Tony Blair ruined Labour for me. And Gordon Brown certainly didn't help, and certainly Corbyn didn't help. And I believed in Corbyn at first, I really did. I had to fight to get my vote in to make him leader until I learnt more about what he was about. And yeah, I like his brother though. I'm kind of mates with his brother.
Yeah,
he's not like close friends or anything, but I went to a couple of physics meetings with him because he's interested in physics, and he's a weatherman basically.
Okay.
A meteorologist, a very successul one.
We are.
He's absolutely dippy as fuck, but absolutely adorable. Love him. He's not quite like his brother. Let's put it that way.
Have you got the chat open?
I do.
Yeah. Your compadres are getting very political.
Yeah, well,
do you know Bad Wolf 66?
I know Bad Wolf, and I know them both. But Memory Factory is a very naughty boy.
Well, according to this, he's an adorable fuck.
Yeah, that's He can say that if he wants to.
Is he fucking blowing his own trumpet there?
I think a little bit, yeah. Corbyn was an anti-Semite. That is true. That's why I turned against him, quite frankly.
Never got the bloke at all.
Look,
it was
an
voted
IRA sympathiser and a raging anti-Semite.
It was voted in as a fucking joke by the unions, and he got in, didn't he? Well,
they thought they could use him to get through their various agendas, and he had no backbone. And considering he shares my view of the EU from the left side of things,
which is
it's not a good thing.
Okay.
Because I've always been that way. I'm very anti sort of centralization of power, anti centralized banks. I much prefer devolvement and more local control.
Okay.
And I just think that the EU is just a stepping stone to one of those horrible things that we, have always
federal Europe,
a federalized Europe, and a one world government. This is what they've been trying to angle at for centuries, and I just don't want to live under them.
I assume you voted leave.
Mm-hmm. I did.
I voted stay.
That's fair enough. I hate all this divisiveness. And I think it's incumbent upon people to try and have empathy, and to understand that you can have political opposing views. I've got friends who are both on the left and on the right, and I come from the left, but I have quite an affinity with a lot of my friends who are on the right, especially in America.
I've gone very centrist over the years. I think.
Well, I haven't moved politically, but the left has. The left has gotten progressively far more militant and far more.
Is that what you think it is then? So technically, I'm probably still where I was.
I think so. I mean, I did recently did one of those Overton window, tests where you find out where you are on that grid. Yeah. I nearly laughed. I came out right next to Gandhi. I nearly laughed myself.
I just want something. I was speaking again with Trev yesterday about this, and two-party politics it's like religion and politics. It's all very, very divisive stuff.
Mm.
And a lot of it is based on centuries-old systems
and animosities. Yeah. I mean, but you look at Rabbi, for example. He's friends with.
I love the Rabbi, by the
Father
way.
Christopher Miller. I'm friends with both the Rabbi and Father Christopher Miller. We both come from completely different backgrounds and have completely opposing views, but we still managed to find affinity. And I think that just stems from having a sort of mutual respect, and we don't try and force our opinions on each other. And I like that. I like that kind of discourse and the ability to kind of understand each other enough not to go down particular avenues of discussion when we know we're not going to disagree and fall out over something that we can't control. And listen, my personal views are I'm anti-authoritarian. I don't like being forced into being something I'm not. That's why I have a lot of problems with the left at the moment, because the left is trying to tell me my identity and to force that upon me, and I will not accept that, and I will reject it every step of the way, because that way leads tyranny, and I don't like the idea of living in some kind of thought policing world where we have to comply, whether it be through pronouns or whether or not you should say or believe in certain things. And I just find the whole thing absolutely obnoxious and contrary to my principles. And quite honestly, I think that I think my generation, our generation, particularly Generation X, are fundamentally contrarian. You know, we don't like being told what to do or what to think or how to, no. I mean, because we fought all our lives to, get anything really, that we're not prepared to roll over and just, be told what to do. It's just not going to happen. And I think that's where this culture war really stems from. I think, a lot of millennials and, I don't know, Gen Z, whatever you want to call them,
right,
have been indoctrinated very deeply by the states. The states, as in, the state rather than the United States. But like it's through the schooling system, the curriculum, where they don't want parents to know what the children are learning.
Yeah, Trev said yesterday
and it goes
about
from
this,
school through to university. With this postmodernist indoctrination. And it's so overt, but they don't question it. I can't understand. Like, okay, maybe they haven't been given the point of reference. They certainly didn't know the world before this kind of education.
Yes.
Re-education. But I think it's incumbent upon people to impress upon them that there is an alternative. And I think it must be really difficult for them to live in a world where they have to be guarded about every single utterance they make, in case if they get, given the Twitter cancel, thing where they're dehumanized and cast out and cancelled. That is no way to live in constant fear, and to constantly have to signal their virtue to show how pure they are, to pass the purity test in order not to be bullied into submission.
When you said to pass the purity test, obviously I'm not allowed to say certain words on this, but it sounds like something what was done 100 years ago, if you know what I mean, if you know where I'm coming from.
Well, yeah, I mean, this does stem back to the bad guys in Germany circa the 1930s.
Apart from we've got better technology now.
It's a I call it a technoligarchy, because that's how I see it. It is a technocracy. They do want to control people because they believe that they have the right to, because they have the intellectual propriety to manage humanity into and to steer it to where they believe it should go. And these people believe in crazy things, and whether or not we believe them or not is immaterial, but they do, and that is something we should be worried about. I mean, if you think about these people going into the forest and worshipping giant burning owls, I think you need to start questioning, really. And I think it's incumbent upon us to remind people of that fact. I'm not telling people what to do or how to live their lives, just to kind of say, well, you do realize there is an alternative way here, and to live in constant fear of falling into these traps that you laid for yourself, by saying the wrong thing or whatever, and there is no such thing as forgiveness, seemingly, in this kind of Twitter sphere.
But why has all this kind of suddenly come about? Because
it's engineered. It's clearly engineered. I mean, the entirety of academia is absolutely swamp laden with this thinking. It's all from the postmodern schools of Derrida and.
So what you're saying is it's basically coming from schooling.
Yeah, I mean, it comes from schooling, but these teachers are members of groups like Tavistock Institute. You've got Common Purpose. You've got various other think tanks that churn these people out and place them into positions of authority in leadership roles. That's what they're there to do, and they are there to engineer the world as they see fit. And it's worrying because it's so subversive and it's so off the radar for a great swath of people that it happens without them even noticing. It creeps in. Right. But I think because the upset in 2016 for either Brexit or Trump, I think that kind of put it into overdrive, and it became too
It
quick.
was
And
kind of a
it jarred
perfect storm
people.
that year.
Yeah, it jarred people out of their blinkered existence because they started to actually see it, you know, and that's where the friction has come from, because that divide was created long ago, but only
Yeah.
became pulled into sharp focus once these events happened, and they really ramped it up. So I think we haven't seen the last of that. It's going to be very interesting.
I was, as I said yesterday, we were kind of talking about this with Trev yesterday. You and him must speak. I think you and him would have a very good conversation about this. Because as I said to him yesterday, I'm very at the bottom level of this. I've just been too busy concentrating, getting up in the morning, going to work, flogging my guts out, going to the gym, coming home, getting on the push bike. Yeah. So, and my eyes have kind of recently opened to this at the beginning of the year, especially with all the kind of BBC stuff and, you know, like all the box ticking and stuff like that. And yeah, I think you and him would make a genuinely good conversation about this.
One of my favorite thinkers from the past few decades, I think it's got to be Christopher Hitchin. I think I don't agree with everything he says. Obviously, that would be insane. But I think, again, he's a contrarian that had a very intelligent way of perceiving the world and speaking his mind and laying it out there. And I strongly miss that level of input. And again, there are also other great thinkers of the 20th century that are deeply missed. And I look at people like Robert Anton Wilson, one of my favorite writers, who passed away about 10, 15 years ago now, who wrote some fantastic books, and a completely off the planet writer. Like, I mean, he wrote ways like kind of self-help books without them being overtly self-help, and they're completely from another dimension. Like, his thinking was just extravagantly bizarre and fascinating, and made you re-examine your existence in completely new ways. And I thoroughly recommend everyone reads Robert Anton Wilson. And the first thing he writes in his sort of preface is, "Don't believe anything I tell you."
Yeah.
Well, that's true. Like, he wrote, "Belief is the death of intelligence," and that's something that stuck with me. I think it's, to paraphrase, "Belief is the death of intelligence. For if one assumes certitude of any kind, one stops thinking about that aspect of existence." Profound and absolutely true as far as I can see it. But then you can't think in absolutes either. So, but for me, that works. And also great minds, comedians like Bill Hicks, George Carlin, two fantastic. I see them less as comedians and more philosophers,
right?
And I can only imagine what they would make of what's going on currently. It would be absolutely endlessly fascinating to hear them, you know, examine and throw back, you know, this mirror at us and go, "Look how fucking stupid this is," you know, but in their indomitable style.
We kind of came to the conclusion yesterday, because Trev and myself are into all Star Trek stuff and go to the stars and all this stuff, and
that's where we should be now. You know,
we are a great species, and
well, we got, to be fair, we haven't got much to reference ourselves against.
We came to the conclusion that we're just too busy at the moment scrabbling about in the fucking mud and being petty.
It's navel gazing. It's indulgent.
Instead of doing,
I think this I hate saying it, but I'm going to say it anyway. This younger generation are navel gazing, narcissistic, and self-indulgent, and they think the whole world revolves around. I call them millennial supremacists, and I think that's fitting. And it's not, and they're not helping future generations. They're not thinking long term. They're not thinking how this is going to affect future generations. They're confusing the shit out of kids that are coming out now, you know, growing up and being told that, you know, everything's completely upside down to what people for thousands of years have been saying. You know, I think their ignorance of history will bite them on the ass because they're so busy trying to rewrite it.
Yeah, they don't even
Well, no, you look at Gina Carano. Gina Carano from The Mandalorian. She posted a picture of the one guy in the crowd in a rally, folding his arms when everyone else was doing the you know, that straight arm salute. And these crazy ignorant POSs attacked her for posting that kind of imagery. They totally failed to grasp the point, the concept, to say, I will not conform to fascism. And they proved themselves to be the ultimate fascists. They were trying to control her. They didn't understand her at all. And they tried to dehumanize her and vilify her and go after her and try to get her cancelled, you know, saying the most vile and disgusting things. These people saying that they were feminists, you know, like these guys, basically, like male feminists, calling her fat, ugly, and I hope that she die, and stuff like that.
It's not pleasant, is it? It's not pleasant.
No, and they cannot edit themselves. They cannot think about, you know, okay, I will admit, plenty of times we do that, you know, people on our kind of side of things, but it's not malicious. It's not done. It's done out of concern 90% of the time. But that kind of behavior cannot be justified. And they went after her big time, directly to her, at her on Twitter, and they're still doing it. And I cannot understand how these people can claim to be pro-feminist or you know, all these other virtues that they post all over their Twitter handles, and, you know, look at me, I'm so virtuous and pure, and they go after people, and it's not one person, it's like a swarm. It's like they think in terms of only one reality. Everything is black or white, you know, there's no gray, there's no in between, and it's so militant and it's aggressive and authoritarian.
My friend,
and it's tyrannical.
Yesterday said, I don't know if I should say the word. Right. It begins with M and finishes with ism. But we're kind of we're going down that kind of militant Marxism route, as it were.
Got you. Yeah.
Which ain't good. Which isn't good, is it? When you think about it.
Well, I mean, you only have to look at certain groups to see how minority groups are being used as a shield to criticism to fundamentally insist doctrine, because the working class didn't perform and behave the way that they were supposed to behave, you know, because they were manipulated to believe that you know, they were downtrodden because of X, right, and Y and all the rest of it. So when they failed to behave as they should in 2016, they were effectively dumped, or even prior to that. And then class was thrown out by the left and replaced by identity politics. And they use groups to use for subversion techniques, tactics, which, you know, using sentiments we all agree with, like Black Lives Matter, of course they do, but that organization as it stands is a Marxist organization. I'm going to just say it, sorry, but it is.
As I said yesterday, I made the mistake over the summer by saying somebody put Black Lives Matters on Facebook, and I said, well, in my stupidity said, well, all lives matter, don't they? And I was systematically destroyed.
That's a cardinal sin, yeah.
I was systematically, it was called a truism, and I was systematically...
Yeah, this is postmodernist nonsense. Like they come up, they have literally, well, I believe there is literally a bibliography of words, you know, like that they have to use. And it's not it's words that have been handed to them. That, you know, these are words that have been subverted to mean something else, or they're, you know, created words. But it is a whole thesaurus of words that have been created by the sort of postmodernists within academia to justify pretty much. I mean, it's a very clever ruse, because they've managed to create a Frankenstein's monster between postmodernism and Marxism. If you look at Marxism and postmodernism, they're kind of diametrically opposed. One is materialist, the other isn't. One is objective, one is subjective.
Okay.
But they've married the two, they've fused the two together and created this monster. But I believe, you know, the hardcore exists are going to put these postmodernists up against the wall first if they ever get into power. And that's all this is about. It's about positioning for power, and they will use any groups, whether it be LGBT, minority groups, like, you know, trans or black, Asian, whatever, you name it. They are shameless in how they operate by using people and applying applying a kind of a virtue shaming, by taking fundamentally all the things we agree with, you know, liberty and freedom for gay people, and, you know, rights for everybody, and, you know, black people to be treated with dignity and have the same rights as everybody else. 100% everyone agrees with that. But the fact that they use that as a shield, so they adopt the language, they adopt these groups of people in order to further their cause. And if you dare to disagree with the cause, you'll be perceived as disagreeing with the sentiment, which is complete
I
fallacy.
got systematically destroyed by two of my ex-workmates who were 20 years younger than me.
Naturally.
By being accused of having lots of white privilege. And they come from the fucking most privileged background of all. Mm-hmm. Which fucking that's what irks me the most.
Well, that goes back to what I'm saying. It's now doesn't matter if you're working class anymore. That's gone out the window. You are now part of the privileged group. See how that works? They've thrown the working class out from, you know, out under the wheels, basically. Yeah. And now they're saying that you are the problem. You have the privilege because of the color of your skin. I'm sorry. And they've changed the definition of racism as well. They've changed the definition of racism to be racism plus power, or something like that. Isn't it? It's like racism.
You're right. It is very clever,
and it's like this is completely made up. It's academia gone quack. Right? It's pure quackery. It's racist, and the fact that they willed it as power to use this to shame people into submission, then because if you say it's race plus power because racism, then you are using power. You have power of a sort of protected status, and you use that to subjugate other people, and that to me means it qualifies by their own definition as racism.
Question from sorry, Lee. A question from the Memory Factory. Do you think you can be racist to white people? We can be racist. People can be racist to anybody.
If you are a race, then surely it stands to reason that any race could be a victim to racism. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what the reason or the excuse is. It's if you're attacking a race by the purely on the color of their skin, then surely stands to reason. I mean, it's useful idiots who are the truly white privileged. It's always the white middle class who make this their fixation. And as far as I'm concerned, from what I can tell from these sort of extreme postmodernists, they're usually white. They usually don't have very many black friends. Right. They all hang out together with other middle-class white people and complain about white people all day long. And it's if you want to talk about white privilege, they are it. You know.
Yeah. It's just so fucking petty.
It's sanctimony. It's pure sanctimony. It's pure hypocrisy.
Did we have any of this 20 years ago?
No, we didn't. The simple fact of the matter is, no, this is a recent
Did we care about? Did we care about?
It was creeping in. It was creeping in, but only in academic circles. It was purely academic, right? But you had these think tanks who've been engineering this shit for decades, right? Since the 60s at least.
Okay.
I mean, we had crazy French philosophers like Derrida, Foucault, who started this postmodernist theorizing, and gender politics and all the rest of it started in, I think, the late 50s, early 60s. These French philosophers who were talking about naturalizing diddling kids and stuff like that, and the gender politics and all the rest of it, and talking about gender critical theory,
right,
and all the other sort of critical theory offshoots, which is like third wave feminism and critical queer theory, critical race theory. All of these things that are apparently critical are purely the marriage of the Marxism with postmodernism, and that has grown from academia, and it's gone through the system. We hear about the long march through the system, or through the what do you call it? The what's the word? My brain's gone late.
Well, it is
institutions.
Through the long march through the institutions. In the morning.
Yeah, but it's not that they care about race, or they care about gender, or they care about queer, or the rest of it, which I still find it as an offensive, pejorative personally, because growing up in the 80s and 90s being queer bashed, it leaves a nasty taste in your mouth.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
So for me, I still have a problem with that. But now they use these groups, and I wised up to this years ago, and before any of the identity politics. That's why I recognized it straight away. I was like, nah, I'm out. It's so shameless the way that it uses those groups of people. So if you criticize Marxism or postmodern indoctrination basically, or doctrine, you're perceived to be anti those people, which is an absolute fallacy. It's like I can be against feminism but not be against women. Not all women identify. I think it's like 8% of women identify as feminist. It doesn't mean I don't believe women should have rights. You know what I mean? It's like they try and feather and tar you rather with this notion that if you're against this thing, you're against all of it in its entirety. There's no nuance. It's all or nothing, black or white. I was just about to say, everything just seems to be. There's no in between nowadays. No kind of. It's just all or nothing. There is no white privilege. Left or right, black or as I said, my first girlfriend 25 years ago, she was a feminist. Didn't have a problem with it. Listen, first wave feminists, great. Didn't have second wave feminists, great. Third wave feminists, this is the intersectional feminists. Okay. Off their fucking trolley. I'm sorry, they are. And there's a lot of calls within feminist groups to create a fourth wave to counteract this. Women's rights are being erased by another group of people who use intersectionalism and look, whilst I have a great deal of empathy and sympathy with certain people within these groups, I don't like the way that they go about trying to erase and try to supersede other people's rights. I've had various rows over the last few weeks with severe amounts of homophobia. Right. Saying that cis gay men should die. What? Yeah, and where is it coming from? It's not coming from the far right. It's coming from trans activists. And I'm sorry, you are one of the most protected groups there is. You cannot say anything without getting cancelled or chased off of or suspended off of Twitter if you dare stand up to them. And they act en masse as well. So you say anything to one, several of them will know about it at least.
I genuinely think I've led a sheltered life these last few years.
You're probably best off.
I know.
In that regard. But I had this argument with someone who claims to be asexual. Yeah. So I don't know why they seem to have a horse in this race, particularly. I was asked
what does asexual mean exactly?
Neither, basically, don't have sex or not interested in sex.
Fair by enough, choice. Whatever. Is that by choice?
I guess.
Right.
I assume me, so. Not my bag. But it's. I was asked to provide evidence, and I just sent screenshot after screenshot after screenshot after screenshot after screenshot of this homophobic abuse coming from that one group within the LGBT, trying to redefine, saying that gay men like vagina. It's like, no, we don't. Can you stop trying to redefine? See, this is what happens when you supplant one group over all the others, and then it filters out and trying to control reality and trying to shame people into acquiescence, and to make it as though your identity, your sexual identity, no longer exists as it was that you fought hard for all your life, like I did. And it's like we're being put back into a box, and I'm not going to allow that to happen.
It seems to me that the people who are the ones who
it's about control and domination. That's what it's about. It's about power. It's about power for themselves and fuck everyone else. And that's not a way to win allies. It isn't.
You would think that these people would be the ones who would most understand. With what you've said, Absolutely. It just sounds like they're fucking angry.
It's vengeful.
Nasty.
It is nasty. And the fact that they feel they can go, I think there's only so many white straight men they can go after. So who else did they go? Oh, let's go for the gay men next. And listen, I can't speak as as an entity, because I'm an individualist. But I speak for myself, and I've noticed a number of others speaking out that they are tired of. Now, I mean, first they went for the feminists and the lesbians, saying that they're calling them terse, trans-exclusionary, radical feminists because they wouldn't want to sleep with a trans woman or trans man or whatever, because they have a particular biological desire to be with someone of the same sex, not same gender, but same sex. So there is that distinguished thing. There is a distinction. For me to be told as a gay man that gay men can like vagina, then that's not being a homosexual. Maybe a homogender, I don't know. But I thought the word was queer for that. I thought that's what that had been set aside for. I thought they created that. Again, it was another word that was re-co-opted within the LGBT community and used to describe someone who is sexually attracted to trans people. So it works either if you're a gay man or a lesbian or trans yourself or whatever, So that, fine, keep that. I don't like the word. You want to use it, that's your business. Cool. Off you go, knock yourselves out, have a great time. But for them to now say that that's clearly not good enough, and that homosexual men, and we get called cis homosexual men. And I hate that word cis. It's used as a pejorative 90%.
So what exactly does that mean?
Well, it's in chemistry. Like if you get like trans fats or something like that. So the opposite to trans in chemistry is cis. So somehow they've managed to.
So they've been reading a book. They've been reading a book somewhere. And thought,
because it sounds scientific, so they give it an air of science. It's scientism. It's not scientific. It's scientism. Yeah, it's a appropriation. It's an appropriation.
Yeah.
It has no biological meaning. It's basically saying anyone who isn't trans is cis. And bearing in mind that the
being a
trans
clever
community
cunt, literally, no pun
is a
intended.
tiny fraction of
Yeah.
global population, that the rest of the world is now all of a sudden overnight cis. And if you have a problem with that, then you're a transphobe. And I totally fundamental. This is why my last account on Twitter, which has just been reinstated after multiple appeals from me, was because I defended William Shatner from a bunch of these activists going after him for refusing to refer to himself as a cis white male.
The great William
Offensive.
Shatner.
Yeah, the great William Shatner, exactly. And because I defended him, I got mass reported upon by these people.
Really?
Yes.
Oh.
And that's why I had my account
think about
for 4 months.
Oh my God. Think about I always call him Mr. Shatner.
Yes.
The thing about Mr. Shatner is that he what I've seen on Twitter, he can look after himself. That's assuming it is him who's doing the Twitter account.
Yes, but why should I sit there and say nothing? I mean, it's almost expected of me that I must side with the rainbow crowd.
Twitter
and
is
I won't do it. I won't do it. I look at humanity first, right? That's my baseline.
Yeah.
I don't care who that is or what group they belong to. For me, groups are a fiction, right? You cannot identify as a group. That's nonsense. Groups are a fiction. Individuals are real. Like if you take someone to court, you can take an individual to court, or you can take a company to court. But if you take a company to court, you can't take the group to court. Yeah. You have to take somebody who will be the representative, the individual representative of that group, because the group itself is a fiction.
Yeah.
Even a company by law is a fiction, right? A corporation is a fiction by definition in legal terms. So, groups do not exist, and I refuse to be associated in terms of group think. And I think it's damaging, incredibly damaging to people within the LGBT community, for example, to rally around a flag and rally around a group identity, because you're selling your soul, you're selling yourself out to an entity that doesn't actually exist. And I'll tell you, when I was facing homelessness in the 90s, and I turned to my so-called community for help, I was asked 3 questions. First was, are you on drugs? At the time I wasn't.
You hadn't gone down that route yet.
I wasn't an addict, no. Second question was, are you trans? No. And the third question was,
what does
do you have HIV?
Oh, okay.
No. And because all 3 of those check marks, and this is what it all boils down to, check fucking marks.
Yeah.
I didn't qualify for any assistance. So it was, again, I was denied within my own community, this group that I belong to, this fiction, denied me because I didn't check the boxes. And this is why when we hear about check boxes and all the rest of it, yes, it is. And it is part of the gay mafia. I don't give a fuck. I'm going to say it. It is. It is. I call it the, what do I call it? The Rainbow Reich.
Very good.
Because that's what it feels like to me.
It's
conformity. It's it is ultimate conformity. And I have rallied my entire life to fight against conformity. I abhor it. It's boring, it's dull, it's lazy thinking, and it's fictional thinking. It's gaga land. It's nothing to do with reality. It's just, the reality is so much harder than people seem to want to admit to.
A great, what potentially could be a great species just...
We are held back by this navel gazing.
Fucking about in the mud.
Mm-hmm. People looking at their own belly buttons and their own genitalia and fixating on the color of people's skin, rather than looking out the sky at the stars and going, "Fuck me, shouldn't we?"
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, and there's no wonder left. It's all they find wonder and fascination in is themselves.
Yeah,
and their identity groups, and it's awful.
Have you been to Glastonbury?
Well, I visited the town. I haven't been to
I remember one year. It's been a long time since. I know. It's been a long year. It's been a long time since I've been. But the first few years when I went, when I was in my 20s, there was actually years where it was just wall to wall sunshine, and we were suffering from fucking sunstroke. And I remember one year, I think it was the first year I went there. I think it was 93, maybe 92, probably 93.
Mm.
Sunday evening, the last night, I went up to this stone circle, the kind of spiritual area.
Yeah.
Tripping my bollocks off on acid, obviously.
Of course.
Laid on the grass, looking into the universe, looking up at the stars. And it was just like one of those moments where it was just fucking spiritual, looking into the galaxy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the first time I actually grasped scale of the universe was on acid. It's it's imagine and see infinity.
I was a fucking not even a molecule in the size of this thing.
Yeah, it's very humbling. Very humbling. I agree.
And these fucking pricks, they probably need to do that.
Well, they put themselves at the center of the universe, and the universe pales into insignificance to their fifis. And I just find it an insult to my intelligence. And the worst aspect of it is that they demand that I accept and agree to it.
Fuck them.
At all costs, to the cost of my own liberty. And I'm like, not a chance. You can coerce me, you can shame me, you can come after me, you can try and cancel me. I don't care. I am not doing it. I have fought long and hard to be who I am, and I am willing to listen to people. I'm willing to engage with anybody and to talk to anybody about anything. But I will not be told what to do, will not be commanded or restricted.
Do you remember my first girlfriend, the feminist?
Oh, yeah, you were talking about her.
I met her at the Q Club in Birmingham, raving. So we're off our fucking heads. And
not the partner for life, usually.
Well, no,
although having said that, I have seen some who still
reason why we kind of hit it off was she was a feminist, but she kind of main mantra was about these, who the fuck are they to judge me?
Yeah.
And that was my kind of mantra at the time. And me and her just fucking hit it off that night.
Well, that's it. I mean, like there's feminists, like the second wave, who aren't man haters, but you get third wave feminists who spend 99% of the time on Twitter going on about how white men specifically need to die and how male children should be euthanized. I mean, I've seen this with my own bloody eyes on Twitter. And Twitter is a place where bad ideas go to thrive, right?
Sounds like it.
It's unbelievable. And I guess it's kind of like an addiction for me. It's like a sore tooth. I can't stop touching it because it is so.
I've tried to. No, it sucks you in, mate. You need to get off it. I've started doing other things like going on Ableton.
I think all ideas are subject to criticism. And I find that Twitter's ability to editorialize reality to the point that you can't criticize certain ideas.
I try to keep it nice on there.
It's anathema to me. It's so counter everything.
I try to keep it nice because there's been times I've stopped myself from saying stuff.
I know, but I feel again that's because that's where the chopping block is there.
That's where they've got you.
Yeah, exactly. And I kind of get that, but I kind of at the same time kind of refuse to be cajoled into behaving in a certain way. And the fact that I'm having to second guess myself means that they're winning, and I don't like that. So I kind of have to kick myself a little bit into gear, and I will, if I see it. It doesn't mean I go looking for it, but if I see it, I will challenge it. But I'll do it in a way that doesn't cross the line.
Well, maybe you should kind of try and walk away from it and just kind of
yeah, but we've been walking away from it for too long, and they've gotten a grasp on reality,
just
and then trying to change it. No, you've got to stand up.
Use that energy, because ultimately it will become negative energy. And just try to use something positive. Use it as...
I think it is a positive thing. I think it's a positive thing to show that you won't be controlled, to show that you are strong enough to say no, and that you are going to defend the world that we've grown up in from disappearing. And I think it's incumbent upon people actually to stand up and be counted. And look, it doesn't mean everyone needs to be militant about it. I just simply saying, if you see something that you fundamentally think is counter to the benefit and the welfare of the world, you know, like you have to challenge bad ideas, and produce better ones. You know, like I'm not saying, you know, I'm not trying to be sanctimonious here. I'm not claiming any moral authority or any moral superiority whatsoever. I am the last person. But for me, I think really that so much is being discarded. I'm afraid that those statues that are disappearing are the first step. There's then people next. You know, the real.
Yeah, that was bad. That was.
Yeah, and listen, ideas should be bulletproof, but they're only as good as the people that espouse them, and you have to be better, and you have to say no. And the more people who say no, the stronger that voice gets. And I think people just need to remind themselves that no is not a negative thing. It can be a positive thing.
It's not good denying the past, because the past is how we've grown.
To repeat history, if you don't, you know, if you choose to ignore it or try to disguise it or to change it, you know, that, I mean, so much history has been completely erased or censored or altered completely. You know, now we're told that, you know, the Stonewall riots started because of transgender people. Well, I'm sorry, transgender wasn't even a word back in the day, and it was actually a lesbian who started it, a black Dutch lesbian.
Yeah.
And there, you know, the history of slavery has been completely changed. You know, I mean, yes, of course, what happened was terrible. I'm against all forms of slavery. But the slavery of Europeans by the Moors, Moor pirates, back in the medieval period and right through to the Tudor times, and even up until the 1800s, there were whole towns, like seaside towns in Britain, who were abducted by slavers, African Moor slavers, and taken to slavery fairs in Africa, and no one knows about this. You know, I mean, that is if you're going to do a history of slavery, you've got to include all of it, because it affected everyone back in the day. And the fact that Britain was the first country in the world to abolish that trade by law, and who actually put the entire country of Britain at risk, because there was an imminent invasion potentially from France, but the Navy were busy going about their business of stopping the slave trade. And that is,
you're very well read.
Because I'm interested in history, and not the history that, you know, is put out there. You know, the slave trade did not start and end with the transatlantic slave trade. As awful and as hideous and vile as it was, and rightly condemned, we mustn't forget that throughout history, millions and millions of people across the world were abducted from their beds in all countries, and even to this day, the slave trade continues. Yeah. It's not gone.
What's the quote? Today's news is tomorrow's history. So how would, say, in 100 years' time, people look at the history of this generation? in 50 years.
Well, it really does depend
If we
on
make
the
it,
victor, doesn't it? Well, yeah, there's that, and also, the victors write the history books, but then 100 years later, the victors rewrite the history, and it's one skewed version followed by another. So you have to kind of look in between. It depends if they even keep history books in the future, if they're not too busy rewriting.
Yeah,
Ministry of Truth.
If we're allowed to read such things.
Yeah.
It
depends who wins. It really does depend who wins.
Shall we just go on something a little bit more lighter for the last few minutes?
Go for it. Yeah. Like in the news where they talk about
that got very deeply. That got very deep.
Yeah, but it's good.
As I said, you're obviously well versed and well read. Obviously I don't read a lot of history and books and stuff, which is probably I've kind of realised I probably do need to read a little bit more. But you just do what you do, don't you? So never mind. There's probably hope
never
for
too
me.
Late. It's never too late. And whilst history is still available without being completely erased, there's plenty of books. There's plenty of videos.
My father is well into like war.
Yeah.
And like World War II, because he was kind of a child in that era.
Yeah.
And so I'm genuinely really, really interested in World War II. It does get a bit much when you go downstairs on Christmas morning and he's watching World at War.
Oh God, yeah, I remember that being on TV.
But
I mean, for me, World War history is something else, because like when I was at school, in my high school, like we did the build up of the First World War in my first year of high school. Then the second year was the World War One. Then in the third year it was post World War, and in the fourth year it was the build up to the Second World War without actually touching the Second World War. So the whole thing lasted as long as the bloody First World War.
They don't even teach that in schools now, do they?
No idea, to be honest. No idea. It's probably too white. I mean, even though we did learn about, the world being at war, it wasn't just about Britain and Germany and America.
Shall we just draw a line on that and talk?
Yes, of course. Yes.
Just for the last few minutes, do you want to talk about Doctor Who?
Knock yourself out.
No, I want you to knock yourself out. I know you've got a grievance against all the new stuff.
Oh God, yeah.
Where for you did it all start going wrong?
It's a tough one. I was never 100% sold on the new series.
Well, from the start, the new Who from the start.
Okay. It just never felt quite like Doctor Who should. And there were a lot of elements just to reason. I mean, I have been doing some watch-alongs of the New Who era with Noel on the TARDIS Zone.
Yeah.
And that has re-engaged my admiration for it. And in retrospect now, I've more distance from it.
Some of it's not bad, to be fair. Some of the new stuff.
And I've been enjoying it, but I think it kind of towards the end of Matt Smith's era, it really started. The intersectional politics started creeping in.
Yeah.
Clara's character in River Song, and I like River Song at first, but in retrospect now I can't stand
it. I didn't at the time. I didn't pick up on any of that. I just thought it was
that's how it is. It's subversive. It creeps in and you don't notice it. And it can affect how you think, because you're not thinking about it critically. But when you go back and you look at it and you think critically about it, then you can pinpoint it and you can go, right, well, that's trying to make me think this. And, you can start. And then once you see it, you can't unsee it. And you start seeing it in other things. And this is the thing people don't get. It's like they just think you're just hating on it because blah, blah, whatever. But no, you do it because you've attuned yourself to the messaging. And it's not paranoid. It's not made up. It's not nonsense. It's there. It's evident. And they admit it. Why do they deny it? You know,
You've just given me a good
disingenuous.
idea for a T-shirt.
Oh, yeah.
The fandom menace, you can't unsee it. Because that sentence, you can't unsee it.
Yeah.
I say it myself. It's like with Star Trek.
Yeah. Oh, what's happened to Star Trek is almost as bad as Doctor Who. But at least you can write that like entire series off, and you still got, you know. But I mean, Doctor Who has got one linear line running through it. You know,
I feel
you
know when you've been on with Dan and the Rabbi and all those lot.
Yeah.
And I just see programs. Yeah, I just see all your streams, just all these fans going on about how fucking bad it is. And
they're ignored or vilified.
I feel sorry for you all, because I know how it feels, you know, with the Discovery stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I watched both the first and second series.
Yeah.
The first series, I was just laughing my ass off and shouting at the screen half the time. The second series, I just had on in the background because it had pew pew noises and, you know, some nice effects. So I was watching the effects if I was watching any of it at all, but I couldn't stand the characters at all. I can't name them. And then the third series, I think I just quit after episode 4 or 3 or 4. I think I can't remember, because it was just, as soon as they introduced that bland non-binary character,
to be fair, I thought, all right, we'll give it a go. But then it was just an episode about it was just the ultimate tick boxing episode.
Oh.
And I don't think
it's so overt. I mean, look, people.
There wasn't even any fucking sci-fi in it. I thought,
no, there's no science fiction. It's science fifis. And it's not even science. It's scientific. It's like science fantasy. Like, none of the stuff in there that's apparently science fiction is science fiction. It's science fantasy, because none of it's explained. They've got all these gadgets that do magic box
magical
stuff.
Magic box stuff.
Yes, it's bollocks. It's unimaginative. It's unintelligent. Bollocks. It's bollocks. Yeah, and people criticize us. Oh, you hate diversity. You're racist. It's like, no, go and watch the Orville. Go and watch the Orville. I love the Orville. It has a diverse cast. Yeah. It has even some kind of woke tropes, if you like, but they do it so brilliantly.
It's
so
well written, yes.
And it's like proper Star Trek. Yeah. And that and The Expanse is another
I've
good
not seen
example.
The Expanse.
Again, a very diverse cast.
I need to see it.
It's brilliant. It's the best written TV show without any fucking equal at the moment. It's that. Okay. And for me, you know, again, a massively diverse cast, but the writing is incredible. The production levels are through the roof.
Yeah.
And the stories, it's just so intelligent and beautiful and thoughtful and inspiring and awesome. Like, I don't use the word awesome, but that is awesome. And so when I hear criticisms like that about my criticism of Doctor Who and the diversity trick that they're pulling there, and with STD, it's disingenuous to then label me a phobe and an ist and all the rest of it, because that is not true. I have a certain standard I expect from my TV shows.
Right. Have the fans of Doctor Who basically just started rounding on people who are criticising it?
Yes, there's a hate group on Twitter called Nut My Doctor. It's nearly 2,000 members, unbelievably. And they target individuals and repost their tweets and try and mock them and humiliate them and harass them, target them. And it blows my mind that Twitter's just turning a blind eye to it.
Noel had a bad time, didn't he?
Well, yeah, because they incite other people. Like, they got 2,000 members, right? Can you vouch for every single member of your group? No, you can't. So because they have some impressionable teenagers in there, like 14-year-olds, who enjoy nothing better than trolling people online. So I mean, damaged in the head kids, who then go after like Noel and Noel's wife and rape shamed her after she came out with the story that she had been raped when she was a teenager. And then, they came out
it's just fucking nasty.
And they were in that group and they denied it and denied it. And we kept pointing, saying, that person is in your group. No, it is. No. And then when we managed to really kind of provide the evidence, then they go, oh gosh, and then that troll then turned on them. Only then did they act and block that person. And then that person kept setting up different sock puppet accounts and they don't do anything about it. We do. So they're sanctimonious. They're a bunch of millennial supremacists again. And they engage in harassment, and they think they're virtuous in doing it. They really do believe they're in the right. Sorry? All because of Doctor Who, yeah. They even post innocuous things. So just anyone criticizing Jodie Whittaker, the minute you do that, they're onto you. And it's beyond and above reason.
I didn't mind a female doctor. I thought, okay, it might be.
I love Missy. I thought Missy was great.
Yeah, I thought,
I can see why the Master would do that, because it's the ultimate disguise. I think that fits. But I don't think it works for the Doctor. I think the Doctor is fundamentally a male character. I think Philip Hinchcliffe, the producer from the mid-1970s, said it best. He said when he described the Doctor as an eccentric Englishman,
right?
But an alien, pretending to be an eccentric
from Yorkshire, which
not
was
from Yorkshire,
Eccleston. He had a Yorkshire.
Yeah, but isn't it funny that Gallifrey must have not only a North but an Asia and an Africa? Funny that, isn't it?
It is.
I don't mind that. Listen, that's fair enough. But the Timeless Child thing was only put in there to make the Doctor diverse. So that was the only reason they did that. The only reason. And I don't care. They can say no. It's so clearly that's the case.
Well, I think it was series 11 was the first series.
There is nothing wrong with the Doctor being pale, stale, and male. It doesn't. That's the character. That has been the character for 50 odd years. Changing it for the sake of modern sensibilities, which are not sensible, is going to date it badly.
I didn't realise they were doing that before, because that was a little bit before I realised what was going on.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I was open-minded enough to give her a chance.
Yeah, I was, yes.
And I watched the first, I think, 5 episodes before I completely tuned out. And the minute I went on Facebook, I was in various Doctor Who groups on Facebook, and the minute I criticised, I think it was the Surunga conundrum, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Because I'd already endured the horror of the spider one. I can't even remember what that was called. And immediately I was
in whatever.
Arachnids in
Sheffield or whatever.
Yeah. I was immediately accosted by the group, mainly figureheaded by the mod who ran the group, who I didn't count how many times I had people saying to me, I hope you die of cancer. And I was chased out of the group. I was blocked. Not only was I removed from the group, but then the mod who ran the group came into my DMs and started harassing me there, telling me what an awful human being I was and that I should die.
What?
Yeah, I didn't say anything particularly outrageous either. I just criticized it. This is fucking, awful. And, look, she failed to, like every other Doctor managed to win me over within their first episode or within like
a few episodes.
That wasn't happening, right? I thought she acted like she did because of the regeneration. I mean, she should have splattered against that fucking train. Not just gone through a metal ceiling.
I think she just never tried to do her own thing. Obviously, it was the writing shit.
She was doing a bad Smith Tennant.
Yeah, I call her Matt Tennant.
Yeah, and it was just kind of
she's not got the. She's not. I don't think
She
she's
didn't
got the
do her
chops
homework.
to
She
do it.
admitted as
Yeah.
much, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah. Yeah.
also then she decided it was a really good idea to make to do a YouTube video mocking people who were not happy with her casting by turning on fans. So she didn't ingratiate herself very well with the fandom.
Turning on the customer, on the customers.
Yeah, and that kind of and then saying that Classic Who, which she clearly never fucking watched, saying it was for the white male gaze. That is not going to win you many fans. And I find stuff like that incredibly divisive. And she gets away with it because she's in this protected class. Although, having said that, white feminism is on the way out as well. Watch this space. So, yeah, I mean, and then Chibnall even undermined her by bringing in this Ruth Doctor, this black actress, who completely outclassed her anyway.
Yeah.
But again, it's just so divisive, you know. And like, as a gay man myself, I would not want the Doctor to be gay. Now there's talk of her doing this Thasmin thing, right?
Oh yeah.
Where
So yeah,
they're going to ship her with her companion, which is one of the worst companions because she is just such a nondescript.
She doesn't do anything.
Doesn't do anything. Just sits around, moans, complains, and talks about her feelings, and gets told how amazing she is 24/7. And it's so facile. It's so nakedly transparent in its appallingness. It's terrible. It's the worst writing I've ever seen on Doctor Who since Delta and the Bannermen. And I believe Delta and the Bannermen had more people watching than the Timeless Child.
Do you think the BBC have definitely killed it?
Yes, they've got another series of this. If they continue this road, look, I have a suspicion that some of the rumors are going to be true, especially the one. Well, we know that it's only going to be 8 episodes.
It's a short series, yes.
Which I don't think Chibnall needed any excuse anyway to produce less stuff because he's just got no ideas.
Yeah.
And the people he's hired are not capable because he's hired beneath his standards, obviously, because he doesn't want to be shown to be
shit,
wanting, yeah, basically. And then you have Vinay Patel, one of the writers, Turner, one of the fans, who is a critic of this era, and vilified him, even though it was against BBC's new policies that the new Director General brought in, which told him to get the fuck out of the fandom, which is rich, considering this guy probably didn't even know what Doctor Who was until he decided, until he was given this job by dint of the colour of his skin, and that is a fact. There is no look. It's not down to his talents. The guy has produced hardly next to anything, right? He produced like 2 or 3 things prior to that. And then he had gall to turn around to a fan who's been a fan of the show for decades to get the fuck out, whilst producing some of the worst Doctor Who episodes in the history of the show, is a really sad indictment. And I think people tend to remember those things. And come this special, I'm absolutely hoping
it's amazing how fails. It's amazing how far it's come, because I remember going to the 50th, was it the 50th, with Tennant and Smith?
Yeah.
I went to the cinema to watch it.
Me too. It was such a great atmosphere.
They had the Daleks in the foyer, the TARDIS, people dressed up. This was in Cineworld. Cineworld needs to open.
And you knew you were sharing an experience that was going on around the world at the same time. That's phenomenal.
The cinema was full. Everybody in the screen, kids, teenagers, old fuckers like me, everybody.
Yeah.
And it was buzzing.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic. People were dressed up. It was fantastic.
I admit that after the 50th, there's always likely to be a downturn.
Yeah.
And I think modern audiences, especially younger audiences, are more fickle. And I believe that once this current era is over, if it's still going to continue, hopefully reverts back to something recognizable.
Yeah.
That these people will go, and they start going, it's not woke enough, you know, it doesn't represent me on screen anymore, because, you know, everyone needs to be a narcissist, right? They have to see themselves on the screen all the time. I hope they just fuck off, and once they're gone, I'll be back, you know, if they can rescue the story, because the story has been ruined unless it's fixed. But, you know, the real fans will persevere. These fakers will find something else to go and destroy, hopefully.
As I said yesterday, Gary from Nerdrotic, he says he doesn't care. He does.
Of course he does. Of course
he
we all
does.
do.
It fucking hurts him.
Yeah, of course it does. That's his defense mechanism. I
know.
Recognize that. I completely understand that.
I know.
But my salvation through this era had, and I think he's beginning to come around to it as well, because he didn't want to watch any classic Who, because he felt, well, it all leads to her, you know. But he has said, you know, he's been watching some classic and enjoying it, and I think that is something, because I said when I was on his Whovian stream, that, you know, the best way really is to cast that barrier between the old classic series and New Who. I said, you know, I'm more than happy, more than willing to cut off the entirety of New Who to protect my classic Who. I
can't watch Picard. I can't watch.
I've never watched it. I'm not going to watch it.
I can't watch Next Generation anymore.
That's awful.
Because of what I've seen with Picard.
Well, for me, Star Trek began and died with the classic series, the original. I watched Next Generation as a teenager.
It was all right.
It was okay. It just sounded a bit like 90210.
I do have a soft spot for Star Trek Voyager. Star Trek Voyager, a fucking classic compared to the shit.
I don't think that was on terrestrial TV.
No, it was on Sky. I was working on nights, so the girlfriend would tape it for me. So when I came home, I watched Star Trek Voyager at like 6 a.m. in the morning. I still haven't watched it all. I've only watched a few episodes. Yeah, it's a classic compared to. I probably do need to watch Enterprise at some time.
I did watch some of that with my former housemate back in 2000 or something like that. That fucking theme tune, though. I couldn't really enjoy it. It just didn't feel right to me. I think it was miscast.
Yeah, I think that series was Star Trek fatigue setting.
Yeah,
and I don't think
too much of it. You know.
We didn't need another Star Trek series at that point. But anyway, okay, I think we're going to draw a line on this.
Yeah,
that was 2 hours of therapy, pal.
Well, all I can say is
a little bit better.
My one hope is, out of all the rumours that Noel came up with, you know, from his source, and whether or not people believe it's a source or not, I can absolutely vouch that it is. But one of those most terrifying ones is the idea that Chris Chibnall is going to bring back Blake 7. I hope that wasn't someone trolling the shit out of me. That would be the worst imaginable thing for me, because my love for Blake 7 has been rekindled over the last few years, and I will never accept anyone trying to bring that back, and especially Chibnall. I'm
going to hook you up with Trev, because he's a massive Blake 7 fan.
I'll do that. Yeah, definitely.
He's the same age as you, mate.
I've got a nice little group of people that because I got Noel into watching it, and some cunt fucking ruined the ending for him, so he's been a bit reticent about continuing watching it. So thanks. But yeah, always happy to.
I will say there's been we've had one viewer from the beginning, so whoever the one viewer is, I'm assuming you, unless if they'd fallen asleep.
They may have done.
If you've sat through all of this for 2 hours, then whoever you are, we salute you.
We do indeed.
Is there anything you want to tell the people before you go, Lee? Anything plugging wise?
Well, you can find me. I've had my account finally lifted from suspension after 4 months.
Jeez.
Of me constantly badgering them about lifting
Yeah.
it because I hadn't done anything wrong.
That's on Twitter, yes?
That's on Twitter, so you can find me at Being Problem. And I also have another account which is my religion of pies, I call it. It's my fake religion that I set up for Az from Hill versus Babyface.
Okay.
And we called the Temple of the Golden Asda. So
oh God. And obviously we'll also see you flying around on Dan Hadley's Facebook channel and stuff. Yeah?
We'll be. Oh yeah, I've recently redone. I did his theme tune for the Blake 7 teleport cast, and
oh, was that you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I did the new theme tune for his Type 40. So hopefully his next Type 40 podcast will feature my theme tune for that. And you can also find me most days on Noel's The TARDIS Zone.
Okay.
Where we do various watch-alongs, including Classic Who, New Who. Yeah. There's a TARDIS Zone Talks on Fridays, so people can actually come onto the stream and have 50 minutes and say whatever they want to say, talk about anything they want to talk about, and science fiction or anything else related to the culture. What else? That's about it, really. And obviously, I'm a modrotic for Nerdrotic, so
I saw that. Yeah. You've had a good 2 hours to vent, as it were. So I hope you feel a little bit better.
As they said in the adverts, it's good to talk.
It is, mate. As I said, this is just my therapy. Listen, if anybody's dipped into this at a later date, when you start going inward and not talking to people, it's not good. When you start going inward, it's bad. So
yeah,
speak and be nice.
Yes, talk.
Just be nice.
I would actually say, Noel said this on his own streams, and I'll reiterate it.
Yeah.
If you are depressed, if you are feeling that you've got no one to talk to or whatever, you can find me on Twitter.
There's people.
You can find me. I will listen to you. I will. Yeah. I love to be able to help in any way and talk to people. Don't feel a burden. I'm more than happy to sit there and help out any way I can.
Well said. Well said.
Hit me up on Twitter and add me, and I'll add you back, because I always add people who add me back. Right. And if you want to DM me, introduce yourself.
Okay.
And
well said. Same here. Same here. Well said, mate. We'll call it a draw at that, my friend. Thanks for taking part.
Pleasure.
Adios.
Thank you. Bye-bye.